He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. We've got a really good guest today for a lot of reasons. One, I think you'll be inspired by his story. We're going to talk a little bit about the Hurricane Laura recovery effort and a role that coastal Mississippi is playing in that effort. I just think you're going to find a lot of insight in this conversation. So let me bring him on in. This is the fire chief from the city of Biloxi, Joe Boney. How are you doing, Joe?
Good morning. Doing great.
It's good to see you, man. So, wow, there's a lot to unpack. I mean, your responses to the COVID situation and how your team has faced that. I want to actually go back and at some point during the conversation and tell people your Hurricane Katrina experience. And then, of course, now you're focused on the Hurricane Laura recovery effort, and you've got people there now. We'll talk a little bit about that, but this is not your first disaster to respond. Biloxi has a history under your leadership of responding to disasters. But you were appointed the chief of police there in June 2000.
Fire department.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, fire department. I don't know why I said that. The fire department, of course. In July 2013 by Mayor A.J. Holloway. And there's a lot to talk about in terms of your journey. We're going to get there probably in the second part of the conversation, but let's jump right in because Kyle and I have been talking about this. We've had a lot of focus on it. You know, at this point in the Hurricane Laura recovery effort, we know how those people feel. They feel like it's not coming fast enough, the recovery effort. And what we learned from our own experience, it takes a little bit of time. We got to wait for water to go down. We have to wait for debris to be removed from the roads. The cavalry's coming, and in some cases the cavalry's there. It just has to get positioned in the right places. But boy, they've got some serious needs over there, don't they, Chief?
They absolutely do. You know, we've had some guys over there since last week. Early last week they left, and man, they have been working boots on the ground, helping people. You know, I think a lot of people may not remember, but after Hurricane Katrina, if you recall, the guys walking house to house and checking them and marking them with the X on the door. You know, that's what these guys have been doing since they've been over there.
Well, they're part of a task force. So explain the task force, and I think it's 30-member task force, but you can tell me more about that and the role your guys are playing on that task force.
Okay, so Mississippi has 3 task force. They're stationed in different parts of the state. Task Force 3, which is the lower half of the state, third of the state, is comprised of about 80 members from different departments, all departments around on the coast and up quite a ways up to Hattiesburg and Lamar County and in that area. When they call for a deployment, they give each department a certain number of positions. So it's made up of this particular response group is made up of 30 guys from mainly the coast area here and up to Hattiesburg because they have a lot of experience with Katrina and things, and these people really, they really look for that experience when you have a response like this. So, right now we have 30 guys, 3 of which are from Biloxi, and they've been keeping me up on what's going on, and it's really been a tough road for them.
Well, it's just been tough because you look at that. There were a lot of discussions about the storm surge was not as high as they thought it would be. But then I've been looking at data that says it could have been somewhere between 15 and 20 feet in that area east of Cameron. It wasn't wide ranging, but in the area east of Cameron, it was very significant. And so what are they discovering so far, Chief?
Well, there's a lot of flooding still. And, when you talked earlier about, just hold on. They literally had to be flown in over the weekend to Cameron, Louisiana by helicopter because there was no way for them to get into that area to do searches. I don't, they don't give us the exact numbers of victims that they find and things like that. But I know it's been tough going. We have a truck, a large truck that's an all-wheel drive truck, and they've shown me pictures of just on regular roads where the mud and stuff has gone up, and they've been stuck quite a few times. So it's really slow going for them. The conditions are hot. Mosquitoes. It's really a tough go for them, and so these guys, they've really done a yeoman's job there. And I'm kind of glad to see them coming home. They've been there long enough. I think they'll have other crews that'll backfill when they leave. So you can only take so much of that. The mind can only take so much.
It's tough. Kyle and I talked about it going into this hurricane season, and of course we've had civil defense leaders, we've had MEMA leaders. I had Josh Morgan, who is the top hurricane chaser in the world. He was actually there for Laurel. That was his 52nd hurricane to be in the eye of, and he'll be on my show in a couple of days to talk more about it. But the concern has been that people will hear from their emergency officials to get out, to evacuate. But because of concerns about COVID, they might stay. And I fear actually that part of the story for that part of Louisiana will be that too many people stay, because not only was that surge significant, as you and I were just discussing, and particularly in that one area east of Cameron, but it was a severe wind event, and the entire roofs were blown off, and the devastation is really very, very significant. And the fear is going to, I think some of our fears are going to be confirmed, that some people decided to stay who should have left, and may not have had good consequences as a result. Is that sort of what you fear as well?
It is, and I'll be. We'll do a debrief with the guys that went, and I'll be interested to hear what they actually saw and did.
Because our season's not over. And one of the things that I'm going to continue to focus on is to tell people, don't wait until we have a hurricane bearing down on us. And here's the other thing: if you rode Katrina out like I did on Back Bay and 10-foot waves hitting them, you don't have to tell me twice what the situation could be. But that was 15 years ago. We've got a lot of new people here, and so our advice to people is do not wait until there's a storm bearing down on us. Know right now, while there's calm in your life, what your plan should be. Download the preparation advice that MEMA has, that the city of Biloxi has, that all the coast cities have. Know what your plan's going to be. Know specifically how you're going to deal with it, so that when it comes that moment, you're not saying, should I leave or should I go? And, COVID's here, and maybe I shouldn't go. Man, you should not let COVID get in the way of making the right decision as it relates to how to respond to an approaching storm.
Absolutely. It's crazy, but when this storm was getting in the Gulf, I made sure and told my supervisors, please, 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 we have a lot of young guys here that have never ridden this out. Please make sure that their families are safe, their homes are secure before they come to work. Because I can remember in Katrina, one particular incident, we had a firefighter who had his family at home. The water came up. They had to go up in the attic, and he lost contact with them, and he was just a wreck until he could get to them and find out that they were safe. But you don't want to do that. You want to be able to focus on the job at hand, because it's a tough job, especially during them times. And you cannot focus if you were worried about your family at home, and that's the way everybody should be.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it more in the third segment, Chief. But I remember sitting in our house, the water rising, listening to the radio, and hearing families calling into the fire department who are already in their attic, and you couldn't go save them.
Right.
And some of them perished, and some of them, thank God, survived. I often said that if Katrina had been a nighttime storm, that the death toll in Louisiana would have paled in comparison to Gulf Coast of Mississippi, because so many people stayed. And because it was a daytime storm, they could hang on to coolers and and get up in trees or whatever they did to survive. But man, you know the math. It would have been devastating, wouldn't it have?
Absolutely.
So, Chief, let's do this. Well, let's start the part about what else is going on as it relates to Laura. Give me, and then we'll be getting close to the end of the segment. Then we'll pick it up on the other side. But go ahead and start telling me the other aspects of Laura.
So, I can't give you a lot about what's going on as far as the coast response goes. I can tell you a little bit about, some of the response. As far as the city goes, we were hoping to have a plan in place by today. The coastal mayors were supposed to meet yesterday. That meeting didn't happen. I talked to the mayor just a little while ago. We do have, there are plans in place to start collections tomorrow for supplies and stuff to bring to Louisiana. But they're not set yet. I do know that the Biloxi fire stations will be a point to bring supplies. We just haven't got a time frame and exactly what supplies are needed. Naturally, water.
Chief, we'll do this because I talked to the mayor as well about this, and there's a lot of energy around. Once they sort of get an assessment of what the current need is, I mean, people can rush to provide services, but you need to have clarity about where our role can fit in. As soon as we have that, we'll tell people more about it. Let's go ahead and move on to the break, and then we'll come back on the other side with Chief Boney from the Biloxi Fire Department, and we'll continue the conversation.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90, Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors. Here the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it. So do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to frequently touch surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse@telesouth.com. That's JESSE@telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Chief Joe Boney, who is the chief of police, chief of fire for the city of Biloxi. I said that in the first segment. I know what it is. I just have that in my head for some reason. That happens every now and then. But Chief, I didn't mention this to you off air, but I was actually a paramedic at one time in my life. I went to University of Alabama in Birmingham, became an advanced paramedic, worked at Mobile Medic for a period of time, was in pre-med. And my goal was to be an emergency room physician. And because of my experience as a paramedic, I realized that wasn't going to fit my personality very well. I'd probably be dead by now, to be quite honest with you, because I'm, type A personality. I want to know all the elements, and to be a really good doctor, you have to take a leap of faith. And I changed to business, and sort of the rest is history. But I have a tremendous respect for first responders. I just have always had a tremendous respect for first responders. So I've had several chiefs of police on. I just believe, and I just believe that what you guys do is so incredibly important to the community. And when you've got great leaders in these key positions like yourself, it's not only we can not only rest at night knowing that we've got a good leader in that position, but we can also be inspired by their story. So let's go back in time just a bit. You grew up in Biloxi. Tell me about that.
Well, I was born in Biloxi, raised on Back Bay on Raynard Street in Back Bay. Went to school, Catholic school, St. John's on Back Bay. That my life was centered around the Back Bay of Biloxi. My father's business was there. We went to church there, went to school there. And then Hurricane Camille hit in 1969 and virtually destroyed our home. My family decided to move to Ocean Springs. Yeah, I was 9 years old at the time. And I can recall crying the whole way over when we made the move over. And my mom said, "I wish you would stop crying." She said, "What are you crying about?" I said, "I don't want to leave Biloxi. I don't want to leave my friends." And she said, "Well, I'll tell you what, when you graduate from high school, you can move back to Biloxi." And I'm here to tell you, the day I graduated from high school, I moved back to Biloxi and have lived here ever since and love it.
So it got in your blood. When did you determine that the fire department is where you wanted to have your career?
At a young age, we would hear the fire truck coming from Back Bay Fire Station, and it was an old truck, and it was noisy. And every time that truck would come down Raynard Street, I'd run out to the fence and watch it go by. Later on, our scoutmaster was was one of the employees there at the fire station, Nalby Lloyd. He was also my Little League baseball coach. So I kind of hung around the station a little bit. But when I moved to Ocean Springs, I kind of left that behind and forgot about it until one day I was 23 years old, and I just got married a couple years before. And I told my wife that I thought I wanted to be a fireman, and she said, "Well, I think that's something you need to try," and so I did, and it's been there ever since.
Well, you became the youngest battalion chief. When you became the battalion chief, you were the youngest to date, and you haven't missed a day of work in over 30 years. Tell me about that.
Well, I love the job. I love coming to work. I love the interaction. It's not like sitting in an office. You never know what's going to happen from day to day. Every day is different. There's good days, there's bad days. I mean, I can tell you some days that I wished I could just crawl under a rock, after seeing and doing what I did. But that's part of the life, and you have to learn how to process those things. And I think I did pretty good about that. I'm very fortunate. I have a great family, my wife Nancy, and my daughters and my granddaughters, and they take good care of me when I'm at home. And I have to say, that's a big part of getting through this job.
Hey, man, behind every good man, there's an amazing woman. I believe that to my core. I married Annette Bohanovich and Bohanovich's daughter, Anne. And so I married into the Croatian clan.
Yeah.
And, I'm so glad that I did. I mean, Anne makes me the man I am today. I know you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
So, where did your drive? You continued to move forward. You continued to advance. Again, not missing a day of work. That's amazing in and of itself. Where did your drive, though, to want to help other communities come from? Because you just have this history of doing that.
Well, I truly believe that came out of my experiences with Hurricane Katrina and what I experienced after Hurricane Katrina. I can see the evolution there and what it did to drive me. I met people during that time that changed my life. At a time when I needed to be, my life needed to be adjusted. So I would have to say Katrina.
So, I talk about the cavalry came. The cavalry did come. And on my show, probably, anytime we talk about Katrina or anytime we talk about needs in the community, I can't help but use the old George Bush quote, the 1,000 points of light, because we saw that, didn't we? We saw you met some incredible people, like for example, in New York, and the opportunity to reciprocate there. Talk more about that.
Wow. We met some really incredible people from all over the country and actually all over the world. We had some gentlemen that came from Japan that wanted to learn, the lessons we learned from Katrina, and I spent some time with them. But I met a gentleman. His name is Steve Gerard. He came from a small town in New Sharon, Iowa. He came down with a crew of guys, and they wanted to help firefighters and first responders. And I hadn't met him before this time, but when I got home 17 days after Katrina, the first time I got to go home, I got home and we still had no power or anything, but I had a generator on my back porch. I had the trees were taken off of my roof, and there was an air conditioner in my window of my bedroom, so I could actually sleep in air condition. And I'm told that them guys were the ones that did that. And you cannot imagine what impact that had on me, because I knew I couldn't provide for my family at a time when they needed it. And these people stepped up and did it. And that's what affected me. Since then, I called Chief Gerard to thank him months later, and told him that if he ever did that again, I wanted to be part of it. And just so happened the first one was Hurricane Sandy up in New York, and he called me and he said, "Look, we're going," and I said, "I'm coming." And we did. 3 of us packed a truck and we went up to New York and spent 2 weeks working in New York. And gosh, you think FDNY, them guys have everything there, they're set, but them guys had no clue what they were facing. We met a young man who was actually on the stairs of his home. His home was gutted out, and he was sitting on the stairs with a gun in his hand, contemplating suicide because he couldn't provide for his family. And this is the FDNY, the biggest and the best fire department in the country. And these guys were rocked to their knees, the ones that were affected by it. And we were so privileged to be able to go in and help them guys and spend 2 weeks with them. Because they came after Hurricane Katrina and spent a year down here, coming down here and helping us. And so we were able to reciprocate on that. And it was just, the experience is unbelievable. It's just amazing to me.
You went to Oklahoma.
We did. After the tornadoes, we went to Oklahoma. It's funny because on a lot of these trips, when we first started, we had no way of figuring out how to set up logistics, where we were going to stay, what we were going to do. So we finally, we went to Oklahoma. We had no idea what we were going to be faced with. We hadn't made any contacts there. We did finally make a contact with a high school coach. He put us in the gymnasium at the high school. That's where we stayed. We worked after that gosh, many days after that, just cleaning debris and stuff off people's property and stuff. It's amazing.
It's you learn a lot about it's a small world, don't you, when you go do stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. We went down to Rockport, Texas after that hurricane there. Gosh, they've all come together. I don't even remember a lot of the names anymore, but we spent some good time in Rockport, Texas, helping first responders, and then we went to Port St. Joe after Hurricane Michael and did some work over there. We've been down to Venice, Louisiana. Gosh, we've been.
Let's do this, Chief. This is the fire chief from the city of Biloxi, Joe Boney. When we come back after the break, I want to dive a little bit deeper into how Hurricane Katrina changed him as a person and a leader. We'll be back after this break.
The stay-at-home orders, the new state flag, the mask mandates, the protests and riots in many of our nation's cities, the battle for the White House. So far, 2020 has been a year like no other, and only one radio station has covered it all from a Mississippi point of view, SuperTalk Mississippi. And hang on, because who knows what 2020 will bring us next. Whatever it is, SuperTalk will be right here to deliver it to you live. Listen in all 82 counties statewide. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse@telesouth.com. That's JESSE@telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
A compassionate young man who became a dinner companion for a stranger makes today's Dean's List. Lisa Mealander and her family had been eating at the Eaton Park in Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania, when she noticed how her server was interacting with a senior patron. The server, Dylan Teetle, had dropped to one knee so he could give his full attention to the gentleman. Lisa wrote on Facebook, the man apologized for not hearing well, and he talked about how he lost his hearing during the war. He was 91 years old with many stories to tell, and Dylan patiently listened, giving him his full attention. He also helped the man figure out a meal from the menu before putting the order into the kitchen. Lisa tried to flag Dylan down so she could offer to pay for the man's meal. Dylan said someone else had already taken care of the check. Before leaving her table, Lisa snapped pictures of Dylan chatting with the senior and published them to Facebook, where they have been since shared thousands of times. Thank you, Dylan, for your kindness, and Lisa for sharing this story with all of us. Janice Dean, Fox News.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. Staying informed is a full-time job, even more so during an election year. That's why SuperTalk is here. With Fox News, News Mississippi, and the Super Talkers, you'll go inside the campaigns, and we'll separate what's real from what's not to bring you the latest information that matters. From now until you go into the voting booth on November 3rd, your election headquarters is Super Talk Mississippi. Available on the Super Talk app and at supertalk.fm. From the Gallo Radio Show archives.
In the house, Mike Hurst.
When I started at the end of 2017, sadly, our office had gotten so low during the last administration. I think in FY16, we prosecuted 11 illegal immigration cases, 11, which is embarrassing. First year I was there, we had jumped almost 700% to 77 prosecutions. And, Paul, that number I think is going to increase very much more this year. We are continuing to see illegal immigration impact crime around the state. I'll give you a perfect example. About a month ago, we prosecuted an illegal alien who had brought 9 kilos of heroin and 1 kilo of fentanyl through our state. Now, to give your listeners an idea of what 2.2 pounds of fentanyl will do, that will wipe out 1 million people, Paul. That'll wipe out a third of our state.
This has been another Gallo Radio Show audio archive.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it. So do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk, Mississippi. He's the former president and publisher of the Sun-Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Coast View, we're having a really important and terrific visit with Joe Boney, who's the chief of the fire department for the city of Biloxi. And he's been through so much, hasn't missed a day of work, which I'm totally impressed by. Grew up in Biloxi, moved to Ocean Springs for a short period of time. When he got out of high school, he couldn't get back to Biloxi fast enough. And this is sort of where his roots and anchor has been ever since. And he's just a great leader. He's been all over the country helping other disaster scenarios. And that comes from a deep place. I talk about it all the time, that in the DNA of coastal Mississippians is this resiliency. And it came from the experience of Hurricane Katrina, to some extent, maybe Camille, for some people, for me, for you, we don't forget Camille, but in our adult life, Katrina is the defining moment. It's that moment when we saw in our friends and our neighbors and our colleagues the ability to dig deep, and we knew when others needed our help. And, there were a lot of our friends and family and colleagues that needed our help, but that was just such a defining moment. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, it was just a terrible situation when you have first responders ending up becoming first responders to save themselves during this, world record breaking storm surge that wiped through Biloxi and across the coast. So when you think about Katrina, what first comes to mind for you, Chief?
The destruction was, I would say, me witnessing the destruction from my point of view. We sat in front of this fire station while Katrina was happening because we couldn't get out, literally couldn't get out for a period of time. And from our view, it wasn't that bad, but the reports I was getting from other stations was just amazing to me. And then when I got out and saw it, my mind, it wasn't picking up exactly what I was seeing. It took some time for me to realize what I was seeing, what my eyes were seeing.
Check. So take a minute and share what those impacts were for these other stations that were in the storm surge areas.
Well, and there was a period of time where we literally couldn't get out of the station. And I was a battalion chief at the time, and my district, my division, the area I was responsible for was from White Avenue to the Point, or just the east end of Biloxi. That was my division. I had 3 stations. that I was responsible for. The other two stations, East End was down on the point of Biloxi, and then Back Bay was Station 3 was on the Back Bay of Biloxi. And we would talk over the radio because cell phones back then weren't real reliable. So when we got back with them, they were calling on the radio saying that they were taking on water in the station, and it was and both of these stations were taking on water. One station had gotten some people from the neighborhood. They were putting them up in the attic area. The other station was doing the same thing. They were climbing up to an attic area to protect themselves. They had life preservers, and they didn't know what was going to happen. At that point, we lost radio contact with both of these stations. We couldn't get out. The chief wouldn't let us out. So I came up to the chief's office and said, look, the water's gone, the water's down, we're going. There was still a pretty good bit of wind. We're going. And he said, okay, let's go. We're going to send a crew to cover Back Bay, and we're going to go to East End. So that's what we did. I split my crews up here, sent one engine to Back Bay to rescue them guys, and myself and a rescue company went to East End, started working our way down Howard Avenue to rescue them. We got to around Myrtle Street. I'm sorry, not Myrtle Street. We got to around golly, what's the name of the street? I'm trying to remember. Rossetti Street.
Yeah.
And that's where we found our guys. They had swam and started coming towards us, and we caught up with our guys from East End. And we had all these crews standing there, and they said, Chief, what do we do? What do we do? And I had no clue what to do. I was so overwhelmed. And I looked around, and I saw a young child in a tree about 100 yards away. I said, you see that person in that tree, go get them. And then there's a house right next to it. Go to that house and get them people off of that roof. And that's where we started. And it worked from there. And it's just amazing. You're just so overwhelmed at that point.
Well, the number of homes destroyed in that general area and the number of deaths in that general area, A.J. Holloway, as you know, was famous in saying that Hurricane Camille killed more people in 2005 than it killed in 1969, because people made a decision to stay based on that past experience. And certainly Camille was a bad storm. But what it told us was, and what we now know, is that every storm is different. Every storm, and now, of course, they've completely redone how they approach storm surge warnings now. Thank God that's all modeled out better now based on the kind of storm, the size of the storm, and all those things. But the east end of Biloxi was one of the most compelling stories of Hurricane Katrina, short of the Waveland and Bay St. Louis. I'm saying mostly in Harrison County, but it was just a devastating scene, wasn't it?
It was, and the guys kind of resented me at first, because the first day after, they had worked until well into dark. It was 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and we lost one of our guys. It was just pitch black, and we lost one of our guys. We found him and got him back, and I said, okay, you know what, this is it. We're coming in. And boy, they resented me for that, but I couldn't take a chance on losing any of them guys. It was too dark, and it was just too dangerous to be able to work out there. But at 5 o'clock the next morning, we were out. And we did that for days and days and days. And them guys were like, they were like machines. They just did it. And they endured so much. They saw so much death, and they did so many rescues. And it's amazing. You just, the time gets by you.
So the debris line was, you'll never forget it, I bet.
No, and I was very fortunate. I got to go up in a helicopter with a FEMA helicopter days after, and that was the first point at which I could actually see the tidal surge, the way the tidal surge had pushed the debris up on the peninsula there, and it was amazing. I mean, it was literally 3 and 4 stories high of just debris that we had to sift through to find people. It was amazing.
Just such a bad experience. I remember, it was Monday, Tuesday afternoon. One of our reporters, one of our photographers went down to, I think Pensacola actually, and he took his credit card, he rented an airplane. And of course it was, this airspace was protected at that point, but he said, I don't care, let's go. And they did. And he just was taking pictures the whole way. So it was like Tuesday afternoon, we're sitting in the conference room at the Sun Herald, then we bring up his photos from the air on a computer, and we start going community by community. And I'm telling you, man, it was, you know the feeling, but there wasn't a person in the room that wasn't just incredibly tearful. I mean, it was just, you couldn't help but cry at the utter devastation and the realization that it's going to take so much energy and so much work to bring this community back. And you felt that every day, didn't you? On the ground every day, you were thinking, how in the heck are we going to do this?
Well, and you're right. And I made it a point every time we recovered a body, I made it a point to go look at the face of that body so it would ingrain in my mind. It would give me the drive to tell people, just like you were saying earlier, you have got to get out of here. This is what happens. And I have all them faces in my mind. I know all them faces.
Yeah.
But it helps me to get through this, these things, these tough times.
Well, I think it creates a compelling case for action. And it makes it so that, I think one of the most challenging things in life today is that people can get complacent. Time heals, time passes, people's memories start to fade away. That's just normal. And you made a commitment to let it be seared in your soul so that no matter if it's 1 year or 30 years, you can convey to people, don't ever forget that when to look at this storm and the warnings that can't come from this storm and act accordingly. And here's the reason why you have to do that. And Chief, I really appreciate your willingness to tell that story. And I think anyone who listens to this, who we're not here, they see how serious this situation really is. So let's do this. We're coming to the end of the segment. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue the conversation. I want to hear about COVID and how things are going with the city and the fire department these days. This is Chief Joe Boney from the Biloxi Fire Department, and we'll see you right after this break.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and,
Wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors here. The show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90 Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now. Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse at telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We're having a terrific conversation with the chief of the fire department for the city of Biloxi, Joe Boney. And in the last segment, we talked a lot about Hurricane Katrina and how it changed his life and how it changed all of our lives. And people should really pay attention when the next hurricane is coming and know what your plan is. You know, when you think about first responders, Chief, you can't help but think about who they are and what makes them so resilient. Because at the end of the day, what you have had a history of through your whole career is rising to the occasion in challenging times. And COVID, just another one of those situations. And I mentioned to you offline that I watched some of your briefings in March, and you've been very consistent with your message all along. You've had to deal with COVID within your ranks. You've had to constantly focus on sending a message to the community that the tools we have are the same tools we had in the beginning: social distancing, wearing a mask, and washing your hands, protecting the vulnerable, don't drop your guard. All those things are still consistent today. But you've been on to this from the very beginning. So let's kind of go through that a little bit, your experience as it relates to COVID and how it changed the way the fire department does its business.
Yeah. So, in the beginning, after the first of the year, we heard this news about COVID this and COVID that, and it really wasn't a lot of concern. There came a point around February and March. I had 22 people that were out with COVID-related issues. You can't operate a department, with that many people out. That's half of a shift that I had out. So we had to find ways to overcome them challenges, and we did. We got on the internet. We looked with CDC's guidelines. We got with the state. Dr. Damon Darcy up at the University Medical Center, University of Mississippi Medical Center, worked with him. Got this information. Got with my chief officers. We sat down, put some plans together, and boy, they were challenging. We had to go from 1 thing, and then the next day things would change, so we had to do another thing. But we came up with a plan, and we told the city, this is what we are going to do, and it has actually worked for us. Since that point, we've been challenged with having 6, 8, some even 10 people out at a time. But we figured out how to work around it and have these guys off so they're protected and their families are protected as well. And how to protect, our assets, our department, because our asset is our people. We're only as good as our people, and these guys, if all I had to worry about was them going out and responding to COVID calls every day, it would be a great day, because they learned quick. I mean, they learned super quick. They learned how to adapt and overcome.
So it affected how they do their job. It affected when they were off duty, when they went home. And a lot of them actually, they do other things when they don't just go home and take their time off. They actually do other kinds of jobs and whatever. But they literally had to embody these new procedures or practices and everything that they did.
We learned. We're learning. The fire service is crazy right now because we're learning all about this cancer problem that the fire service has, and these guys are willing to do it because they know it protects them and their families. And it's the same thing with COVID. We just they took that same concept and adapted it to COVID. They know what they have to do to protect themselves and their family and their longevity.
It's amazing when COVID came along. When you think about all the other conversations we've had about challenges, did you just shake your head or just say, "Hey, this is it. This is the card that got dealt us. We're going to deal with it"?
Well, and I think everybody in the country felt that way. You can either accept it and deal with it, or you can deny it and it'll bite you. It will. So we chose early on to accept it and deal with it. And we did the research. We got the guys together. We explained everything to them. I mean, gosh, man, days, 10, 12-hour days it took us for a couple of weeks to get all this information to these guys. We had to protect them because these guys live together. They sleep together. Yeah. We had to change all of that dynamic had to change, for them to be able to work here.
So Chief, as we start to kind of wind down, I'm curious, as you look back on your career, what is it that you're most proud of, or what is it that most motivates you as a leader?
I've really not thought about that a whole lot, but I think it's given the team the tools and the guidance that they need to do their job, because this is a great job. It has helped many of our guys raise families. It's a very respectful job, but you really have to protect that trust that the public has in you, and you got to earn that. It really takes a long time to earn it. So I would have to say, working with our people and making sure that they are professionally prepared to do their job every day.
And you get up every day and you got to do it again. And you're only as good as your last performance. And you have to have a history of providing what you just talked about. And you've done that as a great leader. So thank you for your leadership. Thanks for telling your story and taking the opportunity to share it with our audience and with me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I hope it inspires our younger generation to consider being a firefighter. It's a great career.
This has been Chief Joe Boney from the fire department at the city of Biloxi, and I really appreciate it. It's been an enjoyable and important conversation. So have a great day.
Thank you.
You bet, buddy.